You're not making this up. This isn't your mind playing tricks. Something fundamental has changed. Something that was buried deep, something quiet and patient has woken up. And it's not waiting anymore. This didn't happen randomly. This began the moment a boundary was violated long ago. And now, the consequences of that violation are circling back. This isn't theatrics. This is pressure that's been accumulating in the dark, searching for someone aware enough to see it. Let me show you what most people refuse to acknowledge. Why you? Why did she choose you as her target? Challenge you, push your limits, analyze every response like she'd rehearsed this dance before you ever crossed paths. Because certain people carry generational blueprints, strategies refined and weaponized over time. When someone operating from that place encounters someone who won't collapse, something primal awakens. You didn't confront her verbally, you confronted her by remaining unbroken. That kind of strength doesn't disappear. It reverberates through everything she believed was under control. No, no, no. This is where the atmosphere thickens. The instant you withdrew your reaction, the instant you selected silence over justification, everything shifted. Silence is torment for those who depend on dominance. Distance feels lethal to those who survive on proximity. The quieter you became, the more intense the weight pressing down on her grew. She senses it now, that invisible jury gathering around her. Not applauding, not consoling, just observing. Every movement she makes echoes louder than before, and there's nowhere left to conceal what's breaking underneath. Justice doesn't always make announcements. Sometimes it arrives through patterns, the same barriers, the same pushback, the same opportunities vanishing. No matter how many times she rewrites her narrative, worn strategies lose their power. Control becomes exhausting to maintain. Deception requires more energy than it once did. And with every setback, something long suppressed begins forcing its way up. Not remorse, not shame, just the undeniable reality of behaviors revealed under scrutiny. See this for what it is. You don't have to do anything. You don't need to protect your reputation or set the story straight. You don't need to pursue justice or demand recognition. Your transformation already provided every answer. Your limits speak volumes without uttering a sound. Your peace feels like condemnation to someone accustomed to turbulence. Every time you embrace truth, it registers to her as another witness joining the assembly she can't control. This is what unfolds when consciousness disrupts automatic behavior. She might still project assurance to the world. She might smile, deflect, or act like nothing's shifted. But in solitude, the questions persist relentlessly. Why doesn't this work like before? Why does every attempt create friction instead of results? Why is everything I buried rising now? Because patterns don't conclude softly. They conclude when someone abandons the position they were assigned and refuses to return. You exited without explanation, and that void speaks louder than any argument. This isn't about revenge or triumph. It's about inherited behavior colliding with intentional awareness. You decided to perceive reality. That decision didn't just propel you forward. It destabilized everything tied to the system she relied upon. When foundations constructed on denial begin fracturing, those depending on them spiral. She isn't being pursued by you. She's being confronted by the gravity of what she inherited without ever examining it. No. So if you notice yourself strangely composed while turmoil erupts elsewhere, recognize what's happening. If you feel weight dissolving from your shoulders while it multiplies around her reality, grasp what this signifies. You didn't initiate conflict. You terminated a pattern. And when patterns terminate, they don't whisper. They reverberate. They summon observers. They reveal what was concealed in open view. Remain grounded. Breathe deliberately. Allow the disruption to unfold. This narrative isn't about whether she endures. It's about what happens when you stop carrying burdens that were never yours. And this is merely the opening. Now we venture deeper because this is where most abandon their resolve. This is where intensity magnifies, not externally, but from within. What she's experiencing now isn't opposition, it's internal disintegration. When established behaviors are exposed, they don't fade peacefully, they fight back. They constrict, they attempt to reclaim authority one final time. And that resistance drains everything. You might observe unusual changes, abrupt emotional shifts around her, reckless choices that contradict her typical approach. That's not strength. That's desperation disguised as control. When someone discovers the foundation beneath them was always unstable, every step becomes treacherous. She's responding to pressure she can't identify and can't evade, because it's no longer external. It's emanating from patterns demanding closure. Nobody prepares you for this. When a pattern nears its end, it attempts to recapture everyone. Previous communications reappear. Recognizable conflict attempts to reignite. You might sense a pull, an experiment, a gentle prompt to re-engage. This isn't random. It's the ultimate test. The system asking, will you return and resume your assigned function? And the instant you refuse, something fractures. Huh? Because your withdrawal resonates more powerfully than your participation ever did. She can't strategize without your response. She can't adapt without data. Your stillness forces her to face herself. And that's the one environment she never mastered. The distraction she manufactured to avoid herself has nowhere to travel now. It redirects inward. Questions expand, uncertainty spreads, and the tension becomes crushing because there's no external target remaining. You see, some confuse survival with power. They believe persisting without introspection equals victory. But persistence without consciousness accumulates consequences, and consequences always surface. What you're observing isn't retribution, it's equilibrium restoring itself. Choices returning undistorted, behaviors circling back to their origin, demanding acknowledgement. This is why her entire world feels unstable. Connections fracture. Strategies collapse at critical moments. Networks feel weaker, not because anyone conspired, but because the foundation was constructed on falsehood. When reality applies pressure, fragile structures don't shatter instantly. They sway, they groan, they expose their fragility gradually, agonizingly, witnessed by everyone. Huh? And you're not supposed to interfere. You're not supposed to save, clarify, or cushion the blow. Your participation ended when you selected clarity over confusion. The power you experience now isn't hostility, it's harmony. You're positioned where you belong. And that placement alone transforms everything. The more firmly you stand, the more precarious everything built on avoidance becomes. There may be instances when guilt surfaces, an unexpected impulse to verify she's all right. That feeling doesn't originate purely from kindness. It originates from programming, from being conditioned to manage emotional burdens others won't shoulder. But this time, the burden isn't yours, and retrieving it would only postpone what must complete itself. Recognize this truth. Conclusions don't require harshness. They require conviction. By remaining neutral, by staying centered, you permit the process to finish without obstruction. That's not detachment. That's wisdom. She must face what she evaded without you absorbing the consequences for her. That's the only path patterns genuinely dissolve instead of transforming under different labels. What appears like an aggressive mob externally is actually accumulated accountability. Every dismissed signal, every repeated action, every instance she selected manipulation over self-examination, those moments didn't vanish, they waited, they accumulated, and now they stand unified, requiring recognition. Not shouting, not assaulting, just existing, impossible to dismiss. So, if you're experiencing relief while everything surrounding her intensifies, don't question yourself. That difference is your confirmation. You escape the chaos. She's positioned at the center of one she helped construct. This doesn't establish superiority. It establishes freedom from repetition, and liberation from repetition is what terminates patterns permanently. No. Stay anchored. Stay aware. Stay quiet when silence serves you. This phase isn't about intervention. It's about resolution. About allowing patterns to complete what they initiated without your participation. Because when this settles, when the chaos subsides, what endures will be understanding on your side and confrontation on hers. And beyond that point, nothing reverts to its previous state. And now it accelerates. The tension you perceived is no longer understated. It's expanding, almost tangible, almost audible, like masses assembling at civilization's borders. Agitated, eager, anticipating the first crack. Only these masses aren't strangers. They're more ancient than she comprehends, more ancient than she ever conceived. Systems, histories, reverberations from lineages emerge, converging on this instant. Every transgression she believed she concealed, every deception she wrapped in charisma, every attempt to sidestep responsibility, they're manifesting simultaneously. You can almost perceive it, the force of ancestry, not ethereal presences, but living echoes materialized as consequence, advancing from all directions. The energy isn't merciful. It's a force, furious, relentless, and she senses it, even if she can't articulate it yet. Her reality trembles because the framework she constructed can't withstand what's approaching. This is where disorder meets destiny. You've done nothing. You've simply remained still, simply stayed rooted. And yet, from that composure, an entire reckoning manifests. She's not being tracked by strangers. She's being faced by the concentrated force of generations. Systems she inherited but never challenged. And systems don't compromise. They don't forget. They advance forward. And anyone in their trajectory must reconcile. You might detect it in her expression, the flash of fear, the fractures in her facade. She's grasping for dominance, attempting to deceive, to transfer blame, to reconstruct her account. But the force of consequences dismisses narratives. It doesn't acknowledge justifications. Each effort to regain balance only destabilizes her further. The ancestry, the echoes, the energy, they converge like an ocean. The pressure doesn't destroy her yet. It transforms her. It compels her to confront what she's avoided for generations, all simultaneously. And here's what most overlook. The force isn't brutal. It doesn't need to be. It's unstoppable because it's unavoidable. The collective weight of truth, of actions, of patterns, repeating until witnessed. This is irresistible in its steady persistence. You observe, you breathe, you maintain your position. That's your only task. The reckoning doesn't require your assistance. It only requires your presence. She might react violently. She might attempt to threaten, confuse, deceive. The pressure she experiences makes her frantic, but every response fuels the force. Every attempt to command the uncontrollable only reveals her weakness. This is the genius of consequence. It doesn't battle, it reveals, it exposes the vulnerabilities and observes. The force isn't attacking her, it's demonstrating that concealment is finished, and you standing beyond the storm are unaffected. Not from superiority, not from intelligence, but because you selected alignment over reaction. You declined to carry what didn't belong to you. You declined to perform the role she anticipated. And that refusal, silent, steady, absolute, creates the perfect clarity through which the force operates. Every ancestor, every pattern, every echo of her inherited conduct is now advancing like a wave. You can sense it as a pulse, an unwavering rhythm. It's not disorder, it's correction. And she occupies its center, struggling for stability, understanding finally that no charm, no manipulation, no dishonesty can protect her from what she's created. And this is where balance prevails. Not for you, but for equilibrium itself. Not for vengeance, not for spectacle, not for degradation, but for truth, for clarity, for the organic unfolding of patterns meeting their results. You are the composed observer, the center of calm. The force moves, the reckoning unfolds, and yet you persist. So when everything settles, when the vibrations cease, when the echoes finally rest, understand this: nothing will return to its former state. She may continue, she may endure, but the structure she depended on, the invisible protection she trusted, has been demolished by the weight of what remained unaddressed. And you stand unmoved, anchored, clear, liberated, and that is genuine power. Now sense it. The atmosphere is dense, almost charged. Every misstep she ever made, every moment she believed she could avoid consequence, every decision she made in darkness, it all confronts her at once. The force of echoes of universal weight, of ancestral pressure, encircles her. You can almost see it shifting, pulsing, demanding attention. And you are outside it, observing, breathing, steady, composed, untouched. Not from indifference, but because you refused to enter her disorder. Not because you fought, but because you selected clarity over reaction. Every step she takes into the tempest only makes the distinction clearer, sharper. She may scream at the barriers she erected, rage at the reflections she avoided, grasp at the secrets she buried, but it is useless. The force isn't enraged, it's exact. It doesn't need to strike. It simply exists, and in its presence, she realizes for the first time that she cannot hide, cannot manipulate, cannot escape what she manifested. And this, my friend, is your triumph. Not loud, not arrogant, not dramatic, but complete. You didn't need to intervene. You didn't need to retaliate. Your composure, your alignment, your refusal to participate, that is what delivered the reckoning. You are the catalyst without action. You are the stillness that forces storms to fracture. She may continue, she may persist, but everything has transformed. The ground she believed was solid is shaking. The patterns she relied on are exposed. Every choice forward will carry the weight of what she ignored previously. And every look in your direction is a reminder. You are no longer a player in her chaos. This is the truth she never grasped. Control is illusion. When patterns are alive, when consequences move like an invisible current, and you are standing beyond it, you are the piece in the center, the witness who knows reality, the one who refused to carry what wasn't theirs. Huh? Now take a breath. Feel it. Let it register. This is what happens when patterns end, and someone refuses to play the expected role. This is what happens when alignment meets reckoning, This is what happens when silence is louder than chaos.